Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 edition of Douglas Now Live. I am Robert Preston Jr. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful day. Here are your top stories for this Tuesday. This is a bit of breaking news, all right, as we were doing our show prep and getting ready to come on the live stream here. The Douglas Police Department posted a story of a death investigation that is underway, and people are making comments about this, and we certainly apologize for the lack of information, but the police department issued this statement and did not say very much about it, except that an individual is deceased, and they responded to Coffee Regional Medical Center as a result, and are currently investigating, trying to find out exactly what happened. Now, we've heard some information and heard a little bit of talk about what may or may not have gone on, and I don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse here, as the investigation is, of course, ongoing. But it appears that there was some kind of incident that happened that led to the death of this individual, and they are now following up leads and investigating to find out exactly what happened, to see if, in fact, charges are warranted. But they have not released an identity yet. They have not released, anyone who may or may not be a person of interest, and they have not released what may have been the cause of death. So this is a developing story, and one that we will continue to follow as it develops. And once we have more information, we will let you know. But what appears to have happened is an individual has passed away under suspicious circumstances, and the Douglas Police Department is investigating, or I should say officers from the Douglas Police Department are investigating the incident. Once we have more information, we will let you know. A story that we covered last week, we've already talked about it a little bit. We've done a few videos and talked a little bit about it, but we haven't had the opportunity to conclude this story here in our Douglas Now Live studio, and I want to take the opportunity to do that. I believe most everyone knows by now that the CCA Patriots are Class A GIAA state softball champions. This is the second consecutive year that the Lady Patriots have won a state championship. And I want to get into more of that in just a second, because this is a big deal. And when you play high school sports, state championships are the pinnacle of your success. All right. You're not going to go any farther or go any higher than a state title. All right. We got a couple of people cut off here. I want to make sure we see everyone here in our photo. And this is not a dig against anybody. This is just the way it is, that in Coffee County, we don't win a lot of state titles at the various schools that we have. It's very competitive. Those of you who live in areas where you do win a lot of state championships, it's easy to take that for granted and to expect to make very deep playoff runs, to be a contender for a state championship each and every year. It's not something that has happened year in and year out here in Coffee County. We've had some championship runs over the course of our athletic history, but year in and year out, our state championships have been few and far between. Now, you go back the last couple of years, the last 2 years or so, we have had quite a bit of success at Coffee High School and, of course, at CCA, and it's been a lot of fun. All right, this is the third state championship that CCA has won in the last calendar year. It was this time last year they won the first state championship. The boys played for a basketball championship last school year. Came up a little short, but they played for a state championship. Then the baseball team won a state title, and then we won another state softball championship. So played for 4, won 3. You back it up a couple of years ago. Of course, Coffee High won a Class 5A football state championship in 2023. And then, and we covered this, and you may have missed it, but Arabelle Roberts won a state individual championship at the state track meet, the GIA track meet, and I think that was in the high jump or long jump or something like that. So CCA actually did have one individual state championship and 3 team state championships in the last calendar year. So it's a really neat time to be a sports fan in Coffee County. There are a lot of teams to pull for. There are a lot of teams that are playing very well. And the fact that we can get on here and talk about deep playoff runs and talk about state championships is pretty cool. I want to give you a rundown of CCA's pathway to the state championship once they got into the tournament. They defeated Westwood in game 1, 15-0. They defeated Crisp Academy in game 2, which was on the same day that game 1 was, last Thursday, I believe. Won that 10-4. That set up a showdown with, and CCA was the number 1 ranked team going in. That set up a showdown with number 2 ranked David Emanuel Academy Eagles, just up the road in Stillmore, a little over an hour from here. It's always fun how these state tournaments and playoffs and all work. You got 2 teams about an hour apart from each other, and they have to travel 3 hours over to Columbus to play. So yeah, you could have found somewhere a little closer to play, a little more centrally located. But where they play the state softball tournaments, and this goes for GIA and GHSA, they play in the complex that was built for the 1996 Olympics, and it's a really neat complex. So it's a cool experience to go over there and play. So on Friday, the number 1 ranked Lady Patriots faced the number 2 ranked DEA Eagles, and that game did not go the way the Lady Patriots wanted it to. In fact, everybody who was following this tournament was surprised by the outcome of that game. The Eagles won 12-0, I believe, in 5 innings via run rule. So CCA has not had a drubbing like that from a region opponent in a very, very, very long time. And that's going to do one or two things to a team. It's going to motivate them to do better, to bounce back, or it's going to demoralize them and can defeat them through the rest of the tournament. I will say this about head coach Jeremy Corum. He does a phenomenal job all the way around. His track record of success shows that. But one thing he is very good at doing is motivating these girls and keeping, and really he does it with the baseball team as well, keeping them from getting down after a loss. He keeps the kids at a pretty even keel. They don't get too high after a win. They don't get too low after a loss. And it's able to keep them focused and motivated and worried about the task at hand. And one thing about baseball and softball, you don't have a lot of time to sit around and mope about the bad things that happen. You have to turn right back around and play pretty quickly. And that's what happened to the Patriots. They had to turn right back around that same day and play Thomas Jefferson Academy. They won that game 4-0. That set up a rematch with DEA when DEA beat CCA there 12-0. That sent DEA to the championship game. So the CCA had to play one more game in order to get to the title game. So that set up a showdown between number 1 and number 2 for the state championship on Saturday morning. Now, the way this thing works, it's a double elimination tournament. So CCA had to defeat DEA twice. DEA only had to defeat CCA once. DEA was undefeated. CCA had 1 loss. CCA won the first game 8-1 pretty easily. Most people expected that. The second game, though, a little bit different. That game was back and forth. CCA actually came from behind and tied the game up in the late innings 5-5. The Lady Patriots won with a walk-off single by Cadence Cravey in the bottom of the 7th to score Claire Mercer for the state championship. So it had all the storylines and all the drama and all the excitement that makes high school sports and really sports in general so much fun. We saw that with the Lady Patriots this weekend. They didn't do it the easy way, but they did it, and they brought home a 3rd state championship, 4th if you count Arabelle's individual championship, back to CCA in a calendar year. I can't think of a time that has been done at the high school level. If you go back, it certainly hasn't been done in my lifetime, but you go back and look in the annals of South Georgia College / South Georgia State College history, you can find some times where some of the teams won multiple state championships conference championships, but the conference championships are effectively state titles. Have won those multiple teams in a calendar year. Baseball really well. Football, when we had a football team in the 50s, it was not uncommon for football and baseball to win conference championships in the same year. So it's been done a little bit at the collegiate level, not so much at high school. Spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people about this to try to get my history right. If I am wrong, someone please let me know. But I can't think of a time, certainly not a recent time, where here in Coffee County we have experienced this same kind of success, and it's a lot of fun. It is a special time to be a sports fan in Douglas and Coffee County. One thing I want to mention real quickly, and I'm not sure that we'll be able to get the whole flyer here, but tomorrow, starting at 6 p.m., FCA, Coffee High FCA program, is presenting Fields of Faith. There will be food trucks, games, worship. There will be Bible reading, scripture reading, and prayer. It will take place at Jardine Stadium again tomorrow at 6 p.m., and all are invited to attend. Listen, I believe our FCA chapter is the Big Country chapter. It's here in Coffee County and a couple other counties as well, Atkinson County, maybe Jeff Davis County. But there are multiple counties in that district, and that's my word, not FCA's. But FCA does a phenomenal job. Tommy Watkins is in charge of that organization here in our area, and they do, when I say they do a phenomenal job, they absolutely do. They provide fill a much needed void for our student athletes, and they're granted access in the school, access to the kids, access to matters of faith that people outside of the school system are not allowed. Your local churches, your local ministers are not necessarily going to have the level of access with kids and with the sports programs from a faith standpoint that FCA does. So, and of course, the net that they cast goes far beyond just student athletes as well. FCA is, of course, Fellowship of Student Athletes, but they also have a positive impact on non-athletes alike. But Fields of Faith tomorrow, presented by the Coffee High chapter of FCA, starting at 6 p.m. There'll be a lot of fun, food, and fellowship. And you know, it doesn't matter if it's a youth meeting or if it's an adult meeting or what denomination it is. If you get a group of people together to have some type of church service or some type of worship service, there will be food. Fields of Faith is no different. So bring your appetite and be ready to receive some spiritual nourishment as well. You will not be disappointed. I can promise you again. Tommy Watkins and his staff, they do a phenomenal job. On Friday, a project between the South Georgia State College Hawks baseball team and the Douglas Coffee County Board of Realtors recognized the Miracle League players at the fall baseball game between the Hawks and the Florida State College of Jacksonville Manta Rays. The kids and adults who played in Miracle League went out to the ball game. You can see here in this photo, they got to spend time with the baseball team, baseball players, talked with them, threw the ball with them a little bit, signed some autographs, had a really neat time. It was a really good opportunity to get both the Miracle League players and the baseball team together, because really, you know, our college athletes fly under the radar a little bit. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do and always wanted to see was our athletes at the college in all of our sports become a little more ingrained and intertwined with the Douglas and Coffee County community. There's some really good athletes out there, and we have some really good teams. Basketball team played for a national title last year, won a championship, won a conference championship last year, and then played for the national title out in Kansas. The baseball team is always in the playoff hunt. Softball team does well. Soccer team is in a really good position this year, women's soccer. So there's a lot going on. There are a lot of things going on at the college in terms of athletics. And this is an opportunity for kids and adults who love to play baseball to interact with some really, really good baseball players, and it was a fun day. You had three of the Miracle League athletes throw out first pitch before the game. Anthony Bigby, Brittany Saylor, and then Montgomery Preston, my son. You can see here, right here is Brittany, and Anthony is here. They threw out first pitches. You got Montgomery over here, and you can see the baseball players with some of the other kids. It was a really neat thing. And those of us who are caregivers for children and adults with special needs and disabilities very much appreciate events like this. It gives the kids an opportunity, and the adults as well, an opportunity to be the center of attention, to be recognized for their achievements, and to have people cheering for them. And that's not something that happens very often in the world in which they live. Many times they don't get a lot of recognition. They don't get a lot of attention. Those opportunities are few and far between, but experiences like this are really neat. And it is a blessing, again, to those of us who are caregivers and also to the kids as well. We have a Coffee High Trojan, former Trojan, Coffee High alumna, Kate Merritt, who is a member of the Army Black Knights cross country team. And Army does compete at the Division I level. So we have two Division I athletes right now playing in the college ranks. We have Maurice Turner, running back at Tulane, who hasn't played as much this year as he would like to. He's been battling an ankle injury. And we have Kate, and here is Kate right here, number 91, with her Army teammates. On Saturday, Army defeated Navy at the Army-Navy Star Series cross-country meet up in New York. And you don't get to go up there and watch. If your kid plays a sport in New York, you don't get this opportunity to see him or her compete very often. But some of Kate's family went up there, and this picture here is courtesy of her mother. But I will go ahead and tell you, I am very much embarrassed that we have not talked about Kate more. She has done a phenomenal job. It was not an easy transition from Coffee High to West Point, but she has done it, and she is flourishing. She ran a 5:53 pace for 6 kilometers, right? So they didn't run a 5K like they usually do, which is 3.1 miles. They ran a 6K up there, and she ran a sub 6 minute pace, and I believe she finished 20th overall. And this is a big deal. This is anytime Army and Navy play each other, whether it's football, which is nationally televised, whether it's cross country or any other sport, baseball, basketball, what have you, it's a big deal. And they take a tremendous amount of pride in winning. And Kate and her teammates defeated Navy at that cross country meet. And again, she has done extremely well, running extremely well. She's super fast. All right. She's super fast. Everybody at that level is fast. But once again, Kate Merritt here, number 91. Congratulations. Good job. We apologize for not giving you your due diligence while you have been at West Point. And we have another year to try to rectify that, and we will do so. I have a generic photo here of high school football. I want to explain what is happening here in Douglas and Coffee County with our football programs this weekend. Now, we have been heavily tilted towards sports over the last few weeks as our seasons wind down. And, we've had, again, CCA on a march toward a state championship. We're here at the end of football season. We have two football teams here in Douglas and Coffee County, CCA Patriots, Coffee Trojans, and both are in the playoff hunt. Now, it appears, and I'm going to explain this more in a minute, the CCA is probably going to make the playoffs regardless of what happens this weekend. Now, they got one game left. They're playing at home Friday night, 7:30 against Westwood down in Camilla. CCA is the number 6 team in the state. Westwood is number 7. So two very evenly matched teams. The top 10 teams make the playoffs. I'm going to come back to that. It's a little more complicated where CCA could possibly end up. For the Coffee Trojans, though, it's a lot simpler. The Trojans have 2 games left, and they've got to win one of those two games. They go up to Warner Robins and play this week in the same stadium they played Houston County last week. They go right back up there and play again in that same stadium, Houston and Veterans. They're playing the Veterans Warhawks. Veterans and Houston County share a stadium. So we're going right back up there to play in the same stadium in which they played last week. After Veterans, after this weekend, on Halloween night, they play Thomas County Central here in Douglas. Now, we're not saying that we can't beat Thomas County Central, all right? But that would be one of the largest upsets in the state this season if, in fact, we did beat Thomas County Central. They're undefeated. They are a really, really good football team. The various computer projections that the pundits around the state use have them making the state finals. So our best chance to get a win under our belt will be this weekend against Veterans. And in fact, Veterans is in the same boat we are. All right, Veterans is going to have a very tall order on their final game of the year. So both us and we got to win a game. So the best opportunity for both teams is to win this Friday night. So there's a lot riding on this game. If the Trojans lose, they have, they're not out of the playoffs yet. They just have to turn around and beat, probably the number 1 or number 2 team in the state. At least that game's at home. But you don't want to have to depend on that. You want to go ahead and take care of your business as early as possible. And it ought to be a pretty evenly matched game between Veterans and Coffee. There will be some, a projected margin of victory and what have you published on Thursday. We will let you know as soon as we get that. I would imagine we're probably going to be pretty evenly matched with Veterans. I think that game could go either way. But it's a big game for us. It's our best chance to win. It's the easier of the 2 games we have left. So if we want to make the playoffs, we need to win. Now, CCA is in a little bit of a different position. They're probably going to make the playoffs. As I mentioned earlier, the top 10 teams in the state, in their division, make the playoffs. Now, here's what happens, though. The top 6 teams get a first-round bye and at least 1 home playoff game. Right now, CCA is ranked 6th. Westwood is ranked 7th. All right? So whoever wins Friday night is probably going to move into that number 6 spot in CCA's case, stay in the number 6 spot, and get a first-round bye and a home playoff game. The loser will probably not drop out of the top 10. Now, this isn't a given. This is just, guesstimating what's going to happen, looking at the rankings and looking at the other teams outside of the top 10 and what would have to happen for somebody to move in and that kind of thing. So it looks like that both Westwood and CCA will probably make the playoffs. It's just a matter of who's going to be in that number 6 spot, who's going to get that first round bye, who's going to get that home playoff game. So the winner will probably end up in that spot. All right. CCA is not really going to move up if we win, not going to drop down very far. Probably what would happen is if CCA were to lose, they would flip-flop with Westwood. Westwood would be 6th, CCA would be 7th. And then the way it works out, I believe, is a 7th seed plays a 10th seed in the first round, and then the 8th seed plays the 9th seed in the first round, and then the winners of those games move on. What that does, if you have to play in the first round, the winners of the first round are probably going to end up playing, depending upon what seed they land at, will end up playing the top 2 teams in the state. Sherwood right now is number 1. Vidalia Heritage is number 2. CCA has played both Vidalia Heritage and Sherwood this year, and neither of those games went very well. So we want to try to stay out of that position as much as possible. So again, when you really get down to it, the clearest pathway into the postseason, the best pathway into the postseason and through the playoffs is for both Coffee High and CCA to win this weekend. And those games are playing at the same time. One up in Warner Robins, one here in Douglas and Coffee County. And listen, this is the first time that CCA has played a region schedule. Last year was the first year of a varsity schedule in 20 years or so. This year is the first time they've played a region schedule. So in my lifetime, I know you got to go back to the 70s, the last time CCA played a region schedule, and I don't remember much about those teams. I was a little bitty thing at that point. But in my lifetime, this is the first time that we've had 2 high school football teams in our community, both in the playoff hunt. All right. Both looking to extend their season into the playoffs. And it's a lot of fun. If you're a sports fan, I mentioned this with CCA softball. If you're a sports fan in Coffee County, if you like high school sports, this is a great time to be a fan. We're getting to see some things that we haven't seen before. We're getting to experience some things that are truly special. So Friday night is a significant night for sports fans, right? You've got 2 teams, 2 of our local football teams fighting it out for a playoff spot. Both teams need to win. It's just a lot easier if they both win. You go ahead and win. You get that taken care of. You're not going to put, well, CCA season ends, the regular season ends Friday night. Coffee, of course, still has one more game. But, yeah, you want to go ahead and win. It takes the pressure off for that last game for the Trojans. So those are our top stories. Very, very sports heavy. I apologize for that. But I have told you this before. We're certainly not a sports-only channel. We're not a sports-only publication. But I do enjoy talking about sports because, for the most part, when you are talking about our high school and college athletics here in Douglas and Coffee County, you're talking about people's successes. You're talking about positive things. You're talking about good things that are going on. Whereas when we get into the front page stories, we get into the hard news stuff, a lot of times you're talking about people's failures. You're talking about the negativity and the negative incidents that take place around our community. And contrary to what people believe, I don't like doing that. I would much rather be positive and talk about the positive things that are going on. And we get an opportunity to do that when we're talking about sports. So, again, congratulations to the CCA Lady Patriots. Let's go Trojans. Let's go Patriots this weekend. Let's get those wins. And let's have 2 local football teams in the playoffs at the same time. That would be unprecedented, something I never thought I would see happening, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It also means more work for me trying to get through this. Friday nights are very busy for us at Douglas Now, but I relish the work. I relish the opportunity to talk about the successes that our kids have on the field of play. Once again, the death investigation that the Douglas Police Department announced just about an hour or so ago. Not a lot of information. They're not saying a whole lot, but that is a developing story. There will be more information. Once we have more, we will let you guys know. Thank you again for watching. We appreciate your attention, and we will be back if there is a breaking story. Otherwise, we'll see you on Thursday. Y'all have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll see you next time.